have a strong quarantine to prevent the plants from coming into our countries. But if the quarantine failed to prevent the transport and become introduced into our countries, we still have what we call early detection system and rapid response to eradicate this plant. Also, when the colonization is still small, when it is naturalization, the population is so big and eradication might be too small. And when it is spread, it is even more difficult to control, and it costs a lot of money. And when it is impacted negatively to the environment, and it is the time that we have to reduce the population as far as possible, and then we must find the action of the natural enemies so that we can control this population of the invasive alien species. Next slide, please. And it is another picture how this invasion occurs and what management should be implemented. Of course, when we do not have invasive alien plant species, it is very important to strengthen the quarantine to identify what invasive species are protected from coming into the country. And the quarantine does not screen that and fail to prevent coming into the country. And then when the population is this small, it is good to eradicate. But if eradication is again fail, and then you have the spread of the population, then you have to prevent further spread. If the population is so big, the area has been invaded by non-population, then we have to try to find this biological control agent. Hopefully this biological control agent will be able to reduce this invasive alien species population. Next slide. So there are many activities for the management of invasive alien plant species. Of course, prevention, early detection system and rapid response, control and mitigation, eradication and restoration. Of course, we have to have international cooperation. And the last one, awareness and education of communities. In fact, it's whole the priority for the countries to prevent the introduction of this invasive alien species. Next slide. So these activities must be managed by the government, and the government must distribute the responsibilities into a government institution. And although it varies from country to country, action must be carried out simultaneously, integratedly, consistently, and full committed synergies. Next slide. And this is the example of Indonesian case where universities, National Biological Institute and NBI, or National Planning Board, or other research institute should work together to develop a national strategy consisting of prevention, early detection system and rapid response, control and eradication, control and mitigation, eradication and restoration, and capacity building, because in the coming years we will have more problems with invasive species, so we have to develop the capacity building through education and research, and universities must be able to produce graduates which be able to identify and manage this invasive alien species. This database development, and then the development of national program, very important one, and of course this international cooperation. So this national strategy must be made into a law that everyone must obey with the national strategy. And this must be translated into action by ministers under the government, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Environment and Forestry, Minister of Maritime and Fisheries, this is the case of Indonesia, Minister of Inland, what you call it, the Minister of Minister of Inland Internal Affairs, let's say, Minister of Trade, also Minister of Transmigration. And those, they have to work together. They have to develop a ministerial decree, so so that they will get fund from the government to work integratedly to get the synergism to meet the optimum output. Next slide. And those internationally is being integrated in the form of IC Biodiversity Target number 9, which says that by 2020, invasive alien species and pathways are identified and prioritized. Priority species are controlled or eradicated, and measures are in place to manage pathways to prevent their introduction and establishment. And next slide. So a lot of objectives for the management. The first one is to stop the research introduction. And it is very important one. We do not want to have a more problem of new invasive species. And to prevent the establishment of spread, to prevent the establishment and spread of invasive plant species already in the country, to mitigate negative impact of invasive alien plant species on ecosystem, socioeconomic and health, to ensure the sustainability of management plan until the goal is achieved. We should not start the management plan until we can reach the goal, until the goal is achieved. And then to conserve and protect natural resources from invasion of alien species. And I would like to add another one, is that we have to manage the agricultural production system sustainably so that invasive alien species will not invade into the system which is managed properly. And then to restore degraded ecosystem caused by invasion, and then to establish international cooperation to standardize the management practices. And in countries in the South Asian region, it's important to have a harmonized system to share the information and to prevent the movement of this invasive alien species from one country to the other. Then the principle of management is that preventive approach in the framework of ecosystem integrity. It means that ecosystem, not only natural ecosystem, but also agricultural ecosystem or production ecosystem. That when we have a good ecosystem, it will not be inflicted or it will not be invaded by the invasive alien species. Information sharing, as we emphasize the international cooperation, principle of user space, that anyone importing an invasive alien plant species which in the future become invasive, the importer must be responsible. And this is usually translated into the responsibility of this importer also to do risk analysis before importing any plant, and then paying the cost of this risk analysis and risk to ensure that this plant will not become an invasive alien species. And then the important one is intersectoral approach management, including environmental administration, quarantine official, health workers, transportation administration, production management in agriculture, forest and fisheries, trades in personnel, research institute, non-government and local community organizations. Next slide, please. Doing quite a lot, and the management action will be differentiated into invasive alien species which are still outside the country or pre-borders, which will rely on international cooperation, and proposal to import must be accompanied by risk analysis, and the management at the borders Final, to prevent the invasion, official in charge must be honest, capable, supplied with enough means, and in management after infestation in the country, and it is most of the case in our countries, early detection system and rapid response, eradication, restoration, control, and mitigation. And that's almost everything. Right? Let's go deeper. Next slide, please. Prevention. What is prevention? Prevention is application of various means to minimize or eliminate the introduction of invasive plant species or to prevent their establishment. Say, example, in import permit procedure, inspection of imported goods, etc. And the prevention is better than cure. And then prevention is cost effective. It's very important. And then the principle of prevention is prevention is better than cure. This is very important one. And no introduction except when permitted. Because once permitted, it's been the government has done a lot of research and how to overcome if the imported plant is becoming invasive. This unintentional and illegal introduction must be minimized. This is very important one because unintentional, we do not know when or who is bringing it, when it is coming, and how or what means, and that is why it is very difficult. Any alien plant species must be considered potentially invasive until proven otherwise, and increase the public awareness of the danger and invasive alien plant species. This again is very important. And the last one, the strategy of prevention must be supported by legislation, appropriate policy and logistics, sufficient fund, and needed infrastructure. It does not mean that prevention is cheap. Prevention can be expensive, but remember that prevention is cost effective. Next slide. Before continuing, how many minutes I can move? Setengah jam more. Okay, activities and prevention is prevention of intentional introduction is easy because we can have risk analysis, we can have environmental impact assessment, we have established the procedure for authorization, but prevention of unintentional is very difficult. Next slide. And then this is why I told you that prevention of illegal plant import is easier because we have the system how to do the risk analysis. Say, here ideally a country should have a list of plants allowed to be imported, that is green list, and a list of prohibited species, that is red list. When not in either list, they should be subjected to risk analysis as below. The risk analysis is done using Australian risk assessment. It consists of 49 questions, and every question must be answered. The answer is only 2, that is yes or no, and every question has answer, and every answer has a score. If the score is less than 1, the plant is dropped. It is allowed to come. If the score is less than 6, it is predicted to be invasive and should be rejected. If the score is between 1 and 6, evaluate further. If it is less than 1, it becomes a crop, and if it's more than 6, it should be rejected. Next slide. So this is an example, and I don't have to go through this, but just to show you. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. This plant has been analyzed and is predicted to have a potential of becoming invasive because the total score was 14 and it is more than 6, and therefore this plant must be rejected. That should not be imported to the country. Next slide. But how about unintentional and illegal introduction? This is very difficult to manage. Whom, where, and when plants imported are not known. So for this unintentional one, identify the pathway rather than on species as on legal one. It may be cheaper also. So it means that more to identify the pathway rather than the species is invasive or not. Coordinate suspected invasive species, and when identified to be so, destroy immediately or release when proven to be crop or non-invasive. Then to take the data on what plant species and others and file the data accordingly and use for future management purposes on similar cases. And develop clear and persistent authorization. And this is unintentional and illegal introduction. Next slide, please. And this has been clear. The one actually, next slide. And pre-burden, as I told you, this use the risk analysis. In next slide, it's at the border and then part of the inspection work in 2 ways: direct examination of factors for the presence of any species, monitor our import to ensure that requirement for the reduction of the risk introduction has been met. Next slide. Post-border, and this is most of the case in our countries. Next slide, please. And treatment, of course, we have to have a good method on the treatment to kill the invasive alien plant species. 100% effective. It causes little or no damage to the community, causes only minor delay in the commercial trade, and has no human risk. Next slide. And this is increased awareness and education, and as I repeat it again, this is very important. Next slide, please. Community education and public awareness, again, is very important. Next slide. And then the benefit of raising awareness is greater knowledge and awareness about invasive species and a prerequisite to increase stakeholders' participation, greater understanding of issues, and awareness of the problems and involvement in the solution. Next slide, please. And early detection system and rapid response. Next slide. This is an Indonesian case, how to do the early detection and identification, and then rapid evaluation, and then rapid response. And it is a part of this prevention. Next slide. Early detection is usually done by the survey. Next slide. And this is action on invasive alien plant species already in the country. Usually, in invasive areas are invaded by many species of invasive alien plant species with various distribution patterns. And those invasive alien plant species should be prioritized to be controlled or eradicated to economize the available fund. The priority is therefore given to species that are most likely controlled successfully. Next slide. Then risk analysis. As in the past on the biodiversity target, that you have to do a prioritization, and then to do the prioritization, you have to have a risk analysis. So what is the risk? Risk, it is a chance of an event occurring. Since there are many invasive alien plant species, the value or chance of probability is relative among the plant and given a different score. So the biological characters dictate the invasiveness. If a plant produces more fiber seed than B does, the probability is that A is more invasive than B, and A may obtain a later score. Next slide, please. So invasive alien plant species risk management consists of two sections. The first one is risk analysis, and the second one is feasibility to control analysis. The risk consists of three criteria. First, invasiveness. Second is impact. The third one is potential distribution. So invasiveness is might call it probability that a plant becomes invasive, and it depends upon the molecular characters of the plant. And risk is a combination of the invasiveness, impact, and potential distribution. And feasibility of control consists of cost of control, of course, and then actual distribution, and also persistency. And the feasibility of control is a combination of cost of control and actual distribution and persistency. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example how to score the risk. There are many tables like this, but this is only to give you an example how to evaluate the risk. Sorry. The first one is, what is the width ability to establish among existing plants? So if a weed or invasive alien species, seedling, really established within dense vegetation among thick relation of other weeds, and then it will have a probability of, it will a high probability of becoming invasive. That's why it is given score 3. But if the seedling mainly need bare ground to establish, including removal of stubble or leaf litter, they will occur only after interference by so much human, and then this, therefore the probability of becoming invasive is 0. Next slide. And then another one, how likely is long distance dispersal? So if the seed is easily distributed, and then the plant will be predicted to become invasive in the future. Next slide. Also the impact. Does the weed reduce the establishment of desired plant? Of course, desired plant can be natural plant in protected areas, or desired plant in agricultural ecosystem would be crops. So if the reduction is more than 50%, then the plant is more likely to become invasive. Again, the score is given 3 because the probability of becoming invasive is very high. Next slide, please. And potential distribution. So the distribution is given like that. If it is greater than 80% of the land is being invaded by the plant, so the plant is very invasive, and then the score is given 10. Next slide. Now, after collecting the numbers, and then we divide the numbers into frequency band. So the frequency band actually top 20 possible score. Then if we have the score between or greater than 192, the score is from the score, and then it's classified as very high risk. But if the score is less than 39, and then the risk will be low, and then lower than 13, and then the risk is negligible. And then there is the risk, the score of the risk. Next slide. Then the feasibility of control action also consists of 3 criteria: is control cost, current distribution, and persistence. Next slide, please. And then this is an example of feasibility scoring. How detectable is the weed? And this is again any contribution to the cause of control, like this one, detecting the weak or invasive alien species will be scored when the score is between 7 and 8, giving score 3. But next slide, please. But this one is very easy because the table has been given, and we just follow the table and then follow the score. The score is also given, and it's very easy. The problem is just collecting the score. So when considering the cost of control, variables contributing to the total cost must be included. So what is the general accessibility to non-infestation? Again, this one, when accessibility is low, then the score is 2. Next slide, please. Then unit of cost of control must be known. If your analysis containing too many unknown, then your risk analysis will grossly not accurate. Then you have to seek for information. Next slide, please. Then current distribution, next slide. And then persistent. Persistent is the control you apply in the area. Next slide. Again here, feasibility of control a little bit different from the risk. Here, the higher value of feasibility score, it means that it is not feasible. So very high, then it's negligible. And the score between 0 and 10 can be very high, or it can be very high. But less than 14 is very, very high. Next slide. So then we develop into a matrix like this. So we have on the vertical section we have width rate, and on the horizontal line right we have feasibility of containment, feasibility of control. Then the width rate is very high, and feasibility of containment is also very high. So the species will be given the first priority to be eradicated. So this not only giving you a priority, but also recommending you what actions should be taken when you do the risk analysis. Next slide, please. This is the example of risk analysis on the National Park of Gunung Gede Pangrango in West Java, not very far from BIOTROP. Next slide. With this slide, with this picture, you can delineate, the areas. The areas which is very important this one to have estimation of the areas. Next slide, please. And then next slide, please. And then if you do the risk analysis, and then by having the list of invasive species there, you can appropriate the value of the score of the risk for the invasiveness, or the impact, or the possible distributor or potential distribution, and you have the risk category. And here number 9 and number 10, System Arantiaceae is very high. Then Chimonobamusa quaternaris also has a criteria is very high. Next slide. And the next one is the criteria for feasibility. Yeah? And then here number 9 and number 10 also obtain a very high feasibility studies, feasibility eradication, and Chimonobamusa quaternaris is very high criteria for control. Next slide. So this Chimonobamusa fits the criteria to be eradicated, and also obtain the first priority. The eradication, 3 conditions must be met under the eradication program is to succeed. First, every individual of the target of invasive alien species must be put at risk. That's why they have to be eradicated off. Invasive alien species must be removed faster than they breed. So the rate of eradication must be greater than the rate of the growth of the invasive alien plant species. The invasion risk must be effectively zero, and the availability of technology and human resources secure, and the availability of needed fund is also secure. And I think that next slide. We have conclusion that invasive alien plant species are already common in our region, prevent from spreading, and educated, control, and the degraded ecosystem should be restored. And you need risk analysis and risk management to determine which invasive alien plant species to be given priority to Kenya. And need activation, technology, fund to handle prioritized invasive alien plant species, and manage the existing production system and ecosystem sustainably. And probably now then, yes, when invasive alien species are still outside the country, prevent them from entering the country. Of course, if it is purposely imported, you can use the invasive alien species risk analysis. Establish strong quarantine coordination with competent trained staff, owners, and dedicated to their job. Provide facilities to support the function of quarantine, and educate community to be aware of the danger of invasive alien species. And I think that then, thank you very much for your attention, and I would welcome your inputs. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for the lecture. I think it was very, very comprehensive. So if the attendees would like to ask any questions, you are all welcome to do so by just typing into the chat box, and then I will now relay the questions to the lecturer. As of now, we have let's see, 3 questions. So if you are ready, I'd like to start with the first question, sir. Okay. Dr. Chicho, are you ready to ask the first question? Can you hear me, sir?
Hello,
Hi. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Dr. Chico? Hello, Harris or anyone from BIOTROP? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, we have some technical problems with our audio.
No problem, okay. So, are we set now? Can we continue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's look at the first question. So, we got our first question, which is okay. So the first question is, how do you identify IAS in a forest area? Is it based on literatures or of endemic species on that area, or any other, or is it based on anything else?
Yes, we identify invasive alien species, either alien invasive alien species or local one. The local one can be invasive if the environment is badly degraded. Say like in the forest, when it is logged indiscriminately and will open the area into the domination of the local species, it can be invasive. Of course, not all invasive species. Of course, not all local species invasive, but in particular case, Merindia. Merindia is invasive because, it is a plant capable of investing their photosynthetic material for producing leaves. So that's why it can grow very fast and dominate the area, preventing the generation of the vegetation, other vegetation, I mean.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so let's move on to the next question. This question is from the same person who just asked the first question. So he mentioned that he is currently working on a botanic garden,
Yes.
and he also mentioned that, as commonly known, botanic garden is one source of IAS.
Yes.
Okay, so is there any suggestions you can give for botanic garden for him to eliminate the spreading of invasive alien species?
Yes, the first one, to import the foreign plant material, it would be better to do the risk analysis. If there is a possibility that the plant is becoming invasive in the near future, or in the future, in that matter of fact, it is better not to import. If you have to, you want to import, make sure that you have any equipment, any facilities, any precaution to prevent the spread of this plant species. If you do not have the equipment, if you do not have the, the facilities to prevent from spreading, better not to import it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on. We are still welcoming questions, so if anyone would like to ask questions, you're always welcome to do so. So the third question is, how do you, pardon me, let me rephrase the question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how do you do monitoring and eradication? Is there any difference in terms of, is there any difference in the treatment of alien species?
Yes, how to
monitor and eradicate?
To monitor, right? Yes, you have to do the survey, regular survey to the areas. If you know the area has been infected, the survey will be directed toward, reducing the population. It means that you have to do a control method on that plants identified as invasive alien species. How to do that? A lot of technology available, and you can have your selection. But the most important one is that the method should not damage the local species, and mainly also do not hurt the human being. Also do not hurt the environment in the region. A lot of information on this control, and I can help you to identify the literature, for example. But of course, this time will be too short to mention one by one. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have our last question here. Okay, we are receiving more questions. Okay, let's first address the question that we have. Okay. Okay, could you please suggest when should we do biological control, chemical control, or manual control in order to combat invasive alien plants?
Biological control, you mean? Well, yeah.
Okay.
Biological control will always be good for this invasive alien species if you are able to find the natural enemies. But you have to be careful with this biological control because, you know, biological control after all is DNA. I mean, they might, you know, undergo change or what do you call it? What do you call it? I forgot the term of changing the genetic makeup here. But usually, so far, our experience, biological control, if we do it carefully, and it works all right, and it would be very good because once we release it and then we multiply the agent works very good, and we do not have to pay salary to the insect to work day and night even.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So the next question is, okay. So some invasive alien species could have economical value, such as ammonia,
Okay.
people use it to make accessories. Should we eradicate these species, or how should we manage them?
Well, Ecornia crassipes is aquatic weed, and there are many factors affecting the life of this biological control agent. You know, being an aquatic, there are many organisms also living in the aquatic environment, notably fish. If you have fish infected by Ecornia crassipes, and then you release the biological control agent, neocatina, this insect, you know, you put in the root of this neocatina and root of this Ecornia crassipes. And then the fish is very happy because they will eat the pupae of this neocatina, and then you will have problem with this biological control because your biological control is eaten by the fish. And that is a big problem in areas where you have a lot of fisheries activities in the region. But in some places we have example of very good, you know, very good biological control, although it is not using insect, but using fish. It is easier to tell the people not to catch the fish. I mean, if they catch the fish, let the fish back to the river, to the lake again, and then we can have a good control biologically using the fish, for example. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As of now, that was the last question. Maybe we can wait 1 more minute to see if there are any more questions. But in the meantime, I would like to inform everyone that the presentation, the slides for today, can be later found on our website, that's SEAMEO.org website. They will be uploaded after the presentation. So you can go onto our website and you can download the presentation from there as well. Okay, so are there any more questions? Okay, we just received one more question.
Right.
So it seems that this may be the last question for real now. Okay, so in the Indonesian context, in your opinion, does the government have the government made any effort or good effort to early detect a rapid response? And what can be improved in the future?
Okay, the government has been working reasonably good because the government now is reviewing the regulations accommodating the problem of invasive alien plant species, and I'm happy about that. And then about the early detection system and rapid response, I was working together with friends in the research institute in the forest research and innovation. And we, drafted early detection system and rapid response system, but I don't know if it is, implemented. But to my point of view, the Minister of Environment and Forestry is the minister which right now has the facilities to implement this early detection and rapid response, because in the field they have, staff which may carry out this early detection system, and then they have a director general which can make a rapid assessment, and then they have funds to be directed to the place where the invasion was discovered, and what action should be taken if it is proven to be invasive. I think it's in a very good one. I mean, probably it will take some time now to implement it, but the Minister of Environment and Forestry, I think it's been well aware of that, and I think the minister even has established a ministerial decree about the invasive alien plant species. I think that they are working in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So it is now, I think now the end of the session, since we have not received any more questions. Okay, Dr. Chitro, would you like to give some closing remarks to the participants?
Any question? Okay.
I think we have one more question, Mr. Tan, which is
okay, sure.
from WNO. He asked about, I want to know if there is another way to control EAS, like genetic way.
Oh, yes. There are many applications, like we have now in Indonesia the problem of, say, Acacia mendium. Acacia mendium has been useful because it produces, bark, and it has been deriving income quite a bit. But then, as the time goes on, people are noticing that this plant might be invasive. So what we did at BIOTROP, we radiate the seed of this Acacia mendium. Hopefully, they will be changed into a plant which is infertile. So if it is infertile, it will not be able to become invasive again, because the invasiveness of this Acacia mendium, for example, it is caused by the fact that they produce a lot of seed and the seeds are dormant. That's very difficult to control. But if you have Acacia mendium which is infertile, you have to multiply it by tissue culture, for example. It is well under control. At the same time, you have a better quality of the wood, because our collection of this says like that, that when you directed the energy for, for generative necessary, and then directed for vegetative one, you have a better vegetative growth rather than generative one. And I support the idea of this genetic makeup so that invasive alien species can be changed into something which is more useful to human beings. That's at least our experience at BIOTROP. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Harvey, are there any more questions from your side?
No. Thank you.
Okay, so that was the last question. Dr. Chito, would you like to please give some closing remarks to the participants?
Oh yes, I'm happy. There are a lot of participants, and mainly, the younger one. And we are depending upon you how to manage this invasive alien species in the future. And this technology, I like this one because it will distribute the information quite rapidly rather than making the information through written article. It takes time. But using this one is very nice. I like this idea. And to the participants, I congratulate you all. I hope you will be interested and pay more attention and more work on the invasive alien species for our environmental benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving up your time to give us the lecture today. And thank you all participants for joining us. And we have been recording the session. So once the session ends, we will conduct the uploading of the video of this session onto our YouTube channel, which the link will be provided in the community development page under SEAMEO.org website. So you can access the link there. Okay, so thank you everyone. The session has now ended. Goodbye everyone. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Terima kasih banyak Pak
Terima kasih. Ini gimana ini?
Yeah, try calling.